In a forgotten thrift store, a story began not with a whisper, but with a jacket. It was plain, unremarkable yet different. No one knew where it came from, it simply was. The jacket had no label, no tag, no size. Its color shifted, its fabric felt both rough and smooth. The viral hook people who wore the jacket began to fade not from life but from mirrors and photographs, becoming ghosts in their own lives. On a cold October afternoon, a college student named Leo found the jacket, unaware he was stepping into a nightmare. The jacket was waiting. Leo, just looking for warmth, found the jacket. Seamless, tagless, impossibly crafted from a single piece of fabric. He bought it for $5, feeling both excitement and unease. That night, Leo tried it on and snapped a photo for his girlfriend. In the picture, the jacket was gone. He appeared in just his t-shirt. He looked in the mirror. The jacket was missing from his reflection too. The impossible garment erased itself from every image, every reflection. Leo's smile faded, replaced by a chill he couldn't shake. Leo's friends tried the jacket, each watching their reflections vanish beneath invisible fabric. The novelty turned to dread as Leo sensed whispers and a growing paranoia. He hid the jacket, but it wouldn't be forgotten. Mark, a skeptic, borrowed it to investigate. He was last seen wearing the jacket. Then he vanished, not just from mirrors, but from the world. The jacket claimed its first victim. Mark's disappearance turned rumor into reality. Leo, racked with guilt, told police everything. The thrift store, the jacket, the vanishing act. Detectives were skeptical, but Leo's story never changed. The jacket was gone from Leo's closet, missing with Mark. Mark's belongings were left behind as if he'd stepped out and vanished. Sarah, Leo's girlfriend, confirmed the jacket's bizarre effects. The police couldn't explain it, but the mystery deepened. With the jacket missing, police questioned the thrift store owner. She had no record of it ever arriving. Textile experts called the seamless single-thread jacket impossible. Desperate detectives considered wild theories experimental tech, military prototypes, but found nothing. The jacket defied logic, remaining an enigma. Leo, haunted by guilt, obsessed over the jacket's construction, calling it a thread pulled from another reality. He feared the world was unraveling around it. Leo was no longer just a witness, he was the first prophet of the jacket's dark power. The story spread from a small circle to the wider world. It started with a missing student post and a strange detail about a jacket. From there, it jumped to social media and online forums. The legend of the seamless jacket began to take shape, fascinating and horrifying people. As the story spread, more people came forward with their own stories. The media caught wind of the story, dubbing it the jacket that was never made. Mark's family made a public appeal, while the public focused on the jacket. The police investigation was now happening under a microscope, scrutinized by online sleuths. The case file grew thicker with unsubstantiated rumors and tips leading nowhere. The jacket wasn't just an object anymore, it was a phenomenon. Before he disappeared, Mark, a student of the scientific method, had a plan to debunk the myth of the jacket. His roommate told police that Mark had borrowed the jacket as a challenge. He planned to subject the jacket to rigorous tests, using a microscope and spectrometer. Mark documented every step, setting up a camera to record his experiments. The police retrieved the footage which showed Mark entering the room wearing the jacket. He looked through the microscope, then his body went rigid. The footage showed Mark pacing, touching his arms, and staring into the camera with terror. Then, he walked out of the room. Whatever Mark saw in that microscope, it had broken him. He ran to escape it. The search for Mark yielded nothing. The case grew cold. The jacket vanished with him, becoming a local ghost story. It reappeared at a downtown bus station, lost and found. Clara, a freelance photographer, found it. It was dark and simple. The clerk said she could have it. Clara took it home, unaware of its history. That night she slipped it on. Her reflection seemed incomplete. She shrugged it off. She did not believe in shadows that had a life of their own. Clara's first encounter with the jacket's true nature came during a photo shoot with an actor in her small studio. She had her assistant take a picture of her with the actor. Later, reviewing the images, she saw the anomaly. The jacket was gone. It was as if she were only wearing a blouse. An impossibility. She remembered a story about the mirror coat. She ran to the mirror, the jacket still on. Her reflection showed only a blouse. The stories were true. A camera captures what is there. This jacket violated that law. She took the jacket off. Another photo, just the jacket on the chair. It enacted its strange, terrifying magic only when worn. It erased its presence from the wearer. The discovery changed Clara. The jacket was no longer a curious find, it was a source of profound fear and an irresistible puzzle. She couldn't bring herself to get rid of it. As a photographer, she felt compelled to understand it, to document it. She began a series of secret experiments just as Mark had before her. She set up cameras all over her apartment, taking pictures and videos of herself wearing the jacket. Every single time, the result was the same. She would appear on screen, jacketless, a ghost in her own home. The evidence piled up, a collection of impossible images that confirmed her growing terror. This obsession began to bleed into the rest of her life. She became withdrawn and jumpy. Friends who came over noticed her strange behavior. She would constantly be glancing at reflective surfaces, windows, television screens, even the backs of spoons, with a look of anxiety. She stopped answering her phone, letting work emails go unanswered. Her world, once focused outward through a lens, had shrunk to the four walls of her apartment, and the dark, silent piece of clothing that now dominated her thoughts. She felt as though the jacket was watching her, even when she wasn't wearing it, its presence a heavy weight in the air. Her paranoia took on a specific, chilling form. She became convinced that the jacket's effect was not limited to images and reflections. She started to believe she was becoming invisible to people in real life. On the street, she felt that people's gazes would slide right past her, that she could stand in a crowd and be completely unnoticed. When a barista would look over her head to the next person in line, she saw it not as a simple mistake, but as proof. The jacket was erasing her, slowly, from the perception of the world. She was fading, and she was the only one who could see it happening. Her friends and family grew deeply concerned. Her sister Emily tried to intervene. She visited Clara's apartment and found it in disarray, with notes and diagrams about the jacket taped to the walls. Clara tried to explain, showing Emily the photographs demonstrating the mirror trick. Emily was disturbed, not by the jacket, but by Clara's obsessive state. She saw a woman in the grip of a powerful delusion, a mental breakdown triggered by a strange coat and an internet story. She begged Clara to get help, to throw the jacket away, but Clara refused. She couldn't let it go. She believed she was on the verge of understanding something terrible and profound. The police monitored online forums, and Detective Jacobson took notice of chatter about a photographer, Clara, experiencing similar phenomena to Mark's disappearance. Under the guise of commissioning headshots, he arranged a meeting. At her studio, Clara, agitated and paranoid, opened up about strange phenomena. She showed him photos, videos, and a jacket locked in a footlocker. When she put it on, Jacobson witnessed a terrifying trick of the light in the mirror. He convinced Clara to give him the jacket as evidence. Back at the station, the jacket became Exhibit A. Forensic analysis deepened the mystery. The textile lab couldn't identify the fibrous material and found no DNA or fingerprints. The investigation had hit a wall. Without the jacket, Clara expected to feel relief. She really thought the paranoia would subside, that her life would finally return to normal. But the opposite happened. The jacket's absence created a vacuum, a void in her mind that it had previously occupied. She found herself thinking about it constantly, wondering what the police were doing with it, what secrets they might be uncovering. The feeling of being invisible didn't go away, if anything, it intensified. She felt untethered, as if the jacket had been a strange and terrible anchor, and now she was simply drifting away, unseen and unheard by the world around her. She began calling Detective Jacobson daily, her voice frantic, asking for updates. Had they found anything? Did they understand what it was? Jacobson, bound by procedure and with little to report, could only offer vague reassurances. His patience wore thin, as her calls became more desperate and erratic. She started showing up at the police station, demanding to see the jacket, claiming it was her property, and she wanted it back. She insisted that only she could understand it, that they were in danger, that they didn't know what they were dealing with. She was escorted out more than once, her cries echoing in the sterile hallways. Clara's obsession became all-consuming. Her photography business collapsed. She lost her studio. Her sister Emily tried to have her committed for psychiatric evaluation, but Clara disappeared before the papers could be served. She was now living out of her car, her life completely derailed by a piece of clothing she no longer possessed. She became a fixture in the online communities, posting long, rambling manifestos about the jacket. She wrote about its seamlessness representing a tear in reality, a thread pulled from the fabric of existence. Her posts were a mix of terrifying insight and what appeared to be a complete mental collapse. The police, meanwhile, did not know what to do. They had an object that defied scientific explanation. a witness who had become unstable, and a missing persons case with no new leads. The jacket sat in an evidence locker, a silent, dark enigma. Some officers refused to go near the locker, treating it with a kind of superstitious dread. Detective Miller argued they should destroy it to end the circus. Jacobson refused, arguing it was the only piece of tangible evidence they had. The jacket had not only destroyed the lives of those who wore it, it was now creating division and fear within the very institution investigating it. It was a poison spreading silently. The jacket sat in the police evidence locker. It had taken root in Clara's mind, her obsession spiraling. She was living a transient existence, her world reduced to getting the jacket back. She believed her existence was tied to it. The last person to see Clara was her sister, Emily, who found her living out of her car. The woman Emily found was a shadow of her former self, speaking in whispers. Emily pleaded with her to come home. Clara refused all help, convinced she was becoming transparent. She was going to get the jacket back from the police to make herself solid again. The final conversation was heartbreaking. Emily watched Clara drive away. It was the last time anyone would see her, driving toward the police station. Clara's plan was born of desperation, but it was not without a strange, meticulous cunning. She knew she couldn't simply walk into the police station and demand the jacket. She had tried that, and it had only resulted in her being labeled unstable and being forcibly removed. She needed a way in, a way to get to the evidence locker undetected. So, for 2 days, she staked out the precinct from her car, observing the comings and goings of officers, the shift changes, the delivery schedules. She was a photographer, a person trained to see patterns, to notice the details others missed. Now, she was applying that skill to a far darker purpose, a heist. Her opportunity came in the form of a late-night catering delivery for the officers working the graveyard shift. It was just a moment of mundane activity, a brief lapse in the station's formal security. As the delivery driver wheeled a large, insulated cart of food through a rear entrance, Clara slipped in behind him, her small frame cloaked in the shadows of the loading bay. She was dressed in dark clothing, her face obscured by a beanie pulled low. She moved with a silent, determined grace, a ghost already practicing her craft. She knew the general layout of the building from her previous frantic visits. She knew where the evidence lockup was located. The station was quiet at that hour, a labyrinth of hushed hallways and fluorescent hums. Clara moved through it like a phantom, her heart pounding in her chest. Every creak of her shoes on the linoleum floor, every distant voice, felt like a thunderclap. She managed to find the hallway leading to the evidence locker, a reinforced steel door with a formidable electronic keypad lock. This was the final barrier. For anyone else, it would have been an insurmountable obstacle. But Clara had one last, desperate card to play, a piece of knowledge gleaned from her obsessive online research into police procedure. She didn't try to guess the code. Instead, she pulled a small fire alarm located at the end of the hallway. The sudden, deafening shriek of the alarm sent the station into a state of controlled chaos. Per standard procedure in a fire alarm event, many electronic locks automatically disengage to allow for rapid evacuation. It was a gamble, a huge one, but it worked. The lock on the evidence room door clicked open, amidst the blaring noise and flashing lights with officers moving toward the designated assembly points. Clara slipped into the one room she was never meant to enter. She had breached the heart of her enemy's fortress. Inside the evidence locker, silence replaced the fire alarm. Clara scanned the shelves, her mind focused. Then she saw it. Exhibit A, Case 734. The jacket. Sealed in plastic, it seemed to absorb the light. She tore the bag open, hands shaking, and held the fabric. She took off her coat and slipped the jacket on. A sense of calm washed over her, replaced by completion. She turned to leave. CCTV cameras captured the door opening, but no one came out. She had ceased to exist for the camera. She had stepped through the vanishing point. The break-in was discovered within the hour. Detective Jacobson was called in from home, his stomach twisting into a knot as the night duty sergeant explained the situation. The tampered fire alarm, the disengaged lock on the evidence room, and one item missing. Exhibit A from the Mark Jessup case. When Jacobson checked the security footage, a cold dread washed over him. He watched the clip of the empty hallway, the ghost door swinging open and shut. He knew Clara had been there. He knew she had taken the jacket. The footage was not proof of her presence, but proof of the jacket's terrifying power. It was the ultimate confirmation of the impossible. An immediate yet discreet search was launched. An all-points bulletin was issued for Clara, but it was a complicated matter. How do you describe a suspect who may be invisible to security cameras? How do you explain the situation to rank-and-file officers without sounding insane? The official bulletin listed her as a person of interest in a theft, suffering from a likely mental health crisis. Only a small core group of investigators, including Jacobson and a now unsettled Detective Miller, knew the full bizarre truth of the situation. They were looking for a woman who might not be visible in mirrors or on film. The search efforts were extensive but yielded nothing. Her car was found abandoned a few blocks from the station, wiped clean of any fingerprints. They searched homeless shelters, hospitals, and morgues. They interviewed her sister Emily again, who could only offer a tearful account of their last meeting. It was as if Clara had walked out of the police station and simply dissolved into the city's background noise. There were no sightings, no credit card activity, no digital footprint left behind. She had gone completely off the grid, a ghost in the truest sense of the word. The days turned into weeks. The search was quietly scaled back. Clara became another statistic, another name on a long list of the missing. For Detective Jacobson, the case became a personal demon. He would watch the security footage from that night over and over, staring at the empty hallway, at the door that opened for no one. He was haunted by the knowledge that he had held the instrument of her disappearance in his own hands. He had logged it, tagged it, and locked it away, thinking he was containing the threat. Instead, he had only created a beacon for its next victim, leading her directly to her own erasure. In the aftermath of Clara's disappearance, investigators began to look back at the case files, searching for patterns they might have missed. They were no longer just investigating a missing person. They were investigating an object, a predator that wore the disguise of a piece of clothing. They pulled the file on Mark Jessup, the student who had vanished months earlier. As they laid out the timeline side by side, a series of chilling coincidences began to emerge, details that seemed too specific, too symmetrical to be random chance. The jacket, it seemed, had a method to its madness. The first coincidence was the date. Mark had disappeared on the night of November 9th. Clara had vanished on the night of February 9th, exactly 3 months later, to the day. It could be dismissed as random, but it felt significant, almost deliberate. It suggested a cycle, a rhythm to the jacket's hunger. What would happen in another 3 months on May 9th? The thought hung in the air like a threat. The second coincidence was meteorological. On the night Mark disappeared, an unexpected, dense fog had rolled into the city. On the night Clara vanished, the same phenomenon occurred. A sudden pea soup fog descended upon downtown. Weather records confirmed both events were anomalous. It was as if the jacket brought its own atmosphere, a physical manifestation of its power to obscure and conceal. The most disturbing link was discovered by Detective Miller. He was reviewing Mark's apartment and Clara's abandoned car. In both locations he found a small, dead moth on the floor. It was the same species, a common gray moth. Unremarkable except for its presence in 2 sealed crime scenes. But Jacobson saw it differently. He remembered Clara's obsession with the jacket's single thread. He thought of moths drawn to a flame, and of fabric being unraveled, thread by thread. The disappearances were not just random acts. They were part of a design, a terrible unfolding pattern. Clara and Mark were gone. The jacket was out in the world. The case files were moved to the cold case unit. But the story had merely escaped official procedure and retreated to the internet. It was here that the jacket's legend would enter its next phase. Clara's final post served as a chilling epitaph. The CCTV footage became a viral piece of paranormal evidence. They painted a chilling picture of a person slowly fading at the edges of reality. They were trapped in a state of perpetual, lonely limbo, forever tied to the very object that had erased them. She had chosen to join the jacket's collection, becoming another thread in its ever-growing terrible tapestry. With the jacket now untethered, its story mutated, taking on a life of its own. It became a global, urban legend. Stories emerged worldwide, sharing core elements, seamless construction, lack of tags, and unsettling effects on cameras. The jacket became a meme, internet folklore, crossing back into the real world. In Chicago, a woman vanished from a photo after buying a similar jacket. Burning it released strange smoke. Now called the glitch coat, it represented a bug in reality. Experts noted its rapid spread online, weaving deeper into collective consciousness. The jacket tapped into a modern anxiety, the fear of being unseen in a world obsessed with digital presence. It became a symbol of cultural fear. The growing legend forced academics and experts to weigh in, a task that pushed them far beyond their professional comfort zones. Paranormal investigators and psychics, of course, had their theories. They spoke of a cursed object, an entity bound to the fabric, a psychic vampire that fed on the life force of its wearers, slowly digesting their image and then their very presence. They claimed the jacket was a doorway to another dimension and that its victims were not gone, but had been pulled through, lost between worlds. Their explanations were compelling for believers, but offered little for those seeking a rational answer. Skeptics and scientists, on the other hand, faced a difficult dilemma. They were tasked with explaining a phenomenon that seemed to defy explanation. Physicists were consulted, asked if some unknown material could exist that bent light in such a way as to be invisible to cameras and mirrors, but only when in contact with a human body. They dismissed the idea as impossible under our current understanding of physics. It would require a material that could intelligently adapt its refractive index in real time, a piece of technology far beyond anything known to the public or, they suspected, hidden in any secret lab. Psychologists offered a different, more grounded theory. They proposed a form of mass hysteria, or a shared delusion, amplified by the echo chamber of the internet. The theory, known as folie à plusieurs, a madness of many, suggested that the story of the jacket was so compelling that it could induce symptoms in suggestible individuals. Clara, they argued, was not a victim of a supernatural coat, but of a powerful narrative that consumed her, leading her to a tragic psychological break. The evidence of the photos and videos, clever digital manipulation, or perhaps a psychological blind spot where people see what they expect to see. Yet, even these rational explanations had their holes. Detective Jacobson, now retired but forever haunted by the case, rejected the psychological theories. He had seen the jacket's effect with his own eyes. He had held the forensically blank object in his hands. He and Detective Miller had both seen the impossible footage of the evidence room door. For the experts, it was a fascinating thought experiment. For Jacobson, it was real. The expert's dilemma was this: you could either accept a reality where the laws of science were breaking, or you had to believe in a lie that your own eyes told you was the truth. There was no comfortable middle ground. Today is May 24th, 2024. The files for the disappearances of Mark Jessup and Clara Rossi remain open, gathering dust in a cold case locker. The official investigation is dormant. The jacket was never recovered. The lives it touched were irrevocably shattered. Leo lives a quiet life, forever looking over his shoulder. Clara's sister Emily continues to search, clinging to the hope that her sister is not gone. And Detective Jacobson, even in his retirement, still pores over the case files. The scientific community dismisses the entire affair as internet folklore. But for those who experienced its impossible properties firsthand, the dismissal is a cold comfort. The core of the mystery remains profoundly unsolved. What was the jacket? There are no answers. The case of the jacket that was never made is a story with no final chapter, a wound that will not close. The legend of the jacket persists. It has become a permanent fixture of our digital folklore. Each new account adds another thread to the tapestry of fear. The stories claim the jacket is still out there, moving from thrift store to garage sale. It is an object that cannot be destroyed, only passed on, waiting patiently for its next owner. The question that haunts those who know the story is a simple one. Where is it now? And so, we are left with a final, chilling, open question. A question that might make you look twice at that old coat in the back of your closet. The legend is out there, and so perhaps is the jacket. Would you be brave enough, or foolish enough to try it on?